Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Gandharvika Giridhari, Gandharvika Giridhari, Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Harinam Sankirtan ki, Patita Pavana Guru Maharaj ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 2, text number 13, chapter entitled The Activities of Maharaj Agni Dhara. Kava Atma Vritti Radhanidhavi Angavati. Kava Atma Vritti Radhanidhavi Angavati. Vishnu Kalasi Anamisa Unmukro Chakarano. Vishnu Kalasi Anamisa Unmukro Chakarano. Udvigna Meena Yugalam Dvijapankti Sochir. Asana Bring Nikaram Sara in Mukhamte. Kava Atma Vritti Radhanidhavi Angavati. Vishnur Kalasi Anamisa Unmukro Chakarno. Udvigna Meena Yugalam Dvijapankti Sochi. Asana Bring Nikaram Asana Bring Nikaram Sara in Mukhamte. Translation. My dear friend, what do you eat to maintain your body? Because you are chewing betel, a pleasing scent is emanating from your mouth. This proves that you must always eat the remnants of food offered to Vishnu. Indeed, you must be an expansion of Lord Vishnu's body. Your face is as beautiful as a pleasing lake. Your jeweled earrings resemble two brilliant sharks with unblinking eyes like those of Vishnu, and your own eyes resemble two restless fish. Simultaneously, therefore, two sharks and two restless fish are swimming in the lake of your face. Besides them, the white rows of your teeth seem like rows of very beautiful swans in the water, and your scattered hair resembles swarms of bumblebees following the beauty of your face. Purport. The devotees of Lord Vishnu are also his expansions. They are called Vibhin Amsa. Lord Vishnu is offered all kinds of sacrificial ingredients, and because devotees always eat prasada, the remnants of his food, the scent of various sacrificial ingredients emanates not only from Vishnu, but also from the devotees who eat the remnants of his food or the food of his devotees. Agni Dhara considered Purva Chitti an expansion of Lord Vishnu because of the pleasing scent of her body. Aside from that, because of her jeweled earrings shaped like sharks, because of her scattered hair resembling bumblebees, mad after the scent of her body, and because of the white row of her teeth which resemble swans, Agni Dhara compared Purva Chitti's face to a beautiful lake decorated with lotus flowers, fish, swans, and bumblebees. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishubhanu Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Welcome to this Sunday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. And in this chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is a very short chapter. Many of you may know, many of you may not know. But this is a very short chapter of 23 shlokas only. And Srila Sukadev Goswami is describing the activities of a king by name Agni Dhara. So there is this king Agni Dhara. He is the son of Priyavrat Maharaj. The son of Agni Dhara was Nabhi, and his son was Lord Rishabdev. And his son was Bharat Maharaj. So this is the lineage. So in this chapter, the activities of King Agni Dhara are being described. And specifically, it is mentioned that this king Agni Dhara is very much attracted to Apsara by name Purva Chitti. Now, all of us, when we come to spiritual life, we have in our lives, all of you all are devotees, so we all have a spiritual goal in life, right? What is our spiritual goal? Our spiritual goal in life is to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. So that is our goal, that we have to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Kareoday. So we want to awaken our Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, our dormant love for Krishna. But this king Agni Dhara, he has no such spiritual goals. He is a good king, but he has no such spiritual goals. His only goal, on the contrary, is go to a heavenly planet known as Pitraloka. And in the previous verse, it is described that he has Pitraloka Kama. He wants to go to a heavenly planet and he wants to enjoy. So this is the goal of Agni-Dhara. So Agni-Dhara, what he does is, he goes to a valley and he starts performing austerities for Lord Brahma. He performs austerities for Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma is very pleased with him and he sends him a very, very beautiful Apsara by name of Purva Chitti. Now Agni-Dhara is sitting, he is performing austerities, and this Apsara comes walking by. So Agni-Dhara, he opens his eyes, he's meditating, he opens his eyes, and in his eyes, when he opens his eyes, he sees this beautiful Apsara walking by. And it is described that this Agni-Dhara, when he saw this Purva Chitti, when he sees her beauty, when he sees her glances, when he sees her shyness, when he sees her humility, when he sees her playful movements, he is completely captivated by this Purva Chitti. He is completely captivated by this Purva Chitti. And in this shloka in particular, which we are reading today, 5-13, Agni-Dhara is actually flattering, he's flirting with Purva Chitti. And he's telling her, your face is so beautiful. Your face is so beautiful like a pleasing lake. Your teeth are like beautiful rows of swans. Your hair resembles bumblebees. Your eyes are like restless fish. So he's flattering Purva Chitti. He wants to get Purva Chitti, so he's flattering her. And if you read verse after verse after verse after verse, and the verses before and the verses after this particular verse, it is only about Agni-Dhara flattering Purva Chitti. It is only him flattering Purva Chitti. So Prabhujis and Matajis, the core message which is coming out from this portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam is that of the unrestricted dangers of coming together of men and women. The unrestricted, undue, illicit dangers of the coming together of men and women. And the Bhagavatam is giving us a very, very strong message in these 23 shlokas through the life of King Agni-Dhara. And the message is simply this, that you may be a great king, you may be the ruler of Jambudvipa. Agni-Dhara was the ruler of Jambudvipa. You may be anybody, but if you are not careful about the mixing of men and women, then you will fall down. In the next few shlokas in this very same chapter, we see that this Agni-Dhara, he is so infatuated in lust with this Purva Chitti that after Purva Chitti gives him 9 children and she leaves and goes away, this Agni-Dhara has this hankering for Purva Chitti. And even when he dies, he is thinking only of Purva Chitti. And the Bhagavatam describes in the last 2-3 verses of this particular chapter that when Agni-Dhara dies, because he is constantly thinking of Purva Chitti, when he dies, he goes to Pitraloka and stays with Purva Chitti. So the Bhagavatam is telling us, be very, very careful. You have to understand that in the Bhagavatam, there are many stories of kings who make it back home, back to Godhead. We have Kardamba Muni, right? We have so many kings who make it back home, back to Godhead. But this chapter, Agni-Dhara, is an example of a king who didn't go back home, back to Godhead. And why he didn't go back home, back to Godhead? Because of his lustful nature. Because he had this great undue attraction for this one Apsara named Purva Chitti. Just like Ajamila. We all know that Ajamila, he led a very ideal, saintly life. This Ajamila, he was considered to be a Brahmana of excellent character. Excellent character. He was gentle, he was truthful, he was pure. One day, his father called him and told Ajamila, go into the forest and bring some fruits and flowers, and bring some samit and kusha grass. It is described that Ajamila was wearing a dhoti and he was wearing sandals. He had a clean shaved hair and he had tilak, and he went into the forest. As he went into the forest, he collected all the provisions which his father had requested. But he remembered, as he was coming back, he heard the sound of a man and a woman laughing in the forest. They were laughing and singing. Ajamila was attracted. He went towards the source of that sound. Where is that laughing and singing coming from? He hid behind a tree, and from a distance he could see one woman. And he could make out that from the dress and the hair of this woman, he could make out that this woman was a prostitute. And she was engaged in an illicit activity with a man. Ajamila was a Brahmana boy. He had never seen such an activity before. He stood there behind the tree looking. In his mind, the thought came, let me leave from here. Let me go from here. But he looked at that activity with his eyes mesmerized and with his eyes wide open. Eyes wide open. Ajamila came back home. He came back home. He bought back all the provisions. He came back home. But in his mind, he was only thinking about what he had seen. In his mind, he was only thinking of what he had seen. He could not get that prostitute out of his mind. Eating, sleeping, walking, working, reading, he was only thinking of that lady. So much so it became an obsession to him. Gandharvika Giridhari ki jai. It became an obsession with Ajamila. And Ajamila, as we all know, Prabhujis and Matajis, he hired that prostitute as a servant in his house. And after that, we know the story of Ajamila, how Ajamila's degradation became. Degradation became. He completely degraded himself, right? In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a particular chapter in which Lord Krishna, he goes to Mathura. The 10th canto, 42nd chapter, 14th shloka, Lord Krishna goes to Mathura. And when he goes to Mathura, it is described in that particular chapter that when Lord Krishna goes to Mathura, all the ladies of Mathura are completely infatuated by seeing Krishna. They are totally attracted to Krishna. And in the purport, in one purport, Srila Prabhupada writes. He writes in one purport, he writes that the ladies of Vrindavan, they were completely attracted by Krishna and they had lusty feelings, conjugal feelings towards him. And Prabhupada writes in that purport that, Prabhujis and Matajis, that lust enters our heart and our body in 9 stages. Lust enters our body in 9 stages. This is Prabhupada writing in the purport. Prabhupada writes that first stage, when we see something which is lusty, which is illicit, the first stage is chakshu raga. Chakshu raga. That means the first stage is we get attracted to that thing with our eyes. So chakshu raga. The second is chitta sanga. When we see that thing even longer, that attraction which enters our eyes, it becomes more deep-rooted in the mind. We are only thinking about that thing. Chitta sanga. Third stage is sankalpa. That means we become determined to get that thing. So lust, we see something which is attractive, chakshu raga, chitta sanga, and then third is sankalpa. That means we make a determination to get that thing. The fourth stage is nidra chetaha. Nidra chetaha. That means we are constantly thinking of that thing and we don't get sleep. We are tossing, oh we want that, oh I want that, so nice it will be. We are tossing nidra chetaha. That means we lose our sleep. The fifth is tanuta. Tanuta means that we are constantly thinking about that thing, and then what happens is we begin to lose weight. We become thin, we don't eat properly, because we are obsessed with that person or that thing. We lose weight, we become emaciated. The sixth is Vishaya Nivritti. Vishaya Nivritti means we become disinterested in other things. And we see this in movies many times, that when a hero or a heroine, they get attracted to each other, but then when they don't get each other, they get disinterested in everything. So Vishaya Nivritti, right? So this is all stages in which lust is entering the body. The seventh stage is Trapanasha. Trapanasha means we go to that person and we shamelessly express our feelings. This is not Vedic culture. We go and we shamelessly express our feelings. Oh, I like you so much, or this and that. This is the seventh stage with what happens when lust enters your body. And the eighth stage is Unmado. Unmado means a person becomes mad. He becomes mad when he doesn't get that thing. And the final and the ninth stage is Muruchu, where the person, when he doesn't get that thing, he faints. He faints in disenchantment. So Prabhupada writes that there are 9 stages with which lust enters your body, but starts with Chakshuraga. Starts with seeing. Right? King Agni, Dhara, if you remember, he was meditating with his eyes closed, but when he opened his eyes, he saw Purvachitti and lust entered his body. Ajamila was a Brahmana boy. How did lust enter his body? Chakshuraga, because he saw something which was illicit. He saw something which was illicit. So attraction for lust begins with the eyes. Begins with the eyes. So Prabhujis and Matajis, Prabhupada goes on to write in that purport that if we have to control lust, the first thing is that as soon as we see something which is illicit and which is against the 4 regulative principles, the first thing is we should stop seeing it. We should close our eyes. Because at the very first stage, at the stage of Chakshuraga, if you can cut that attraction, then the other 8 stages will not follow. Other 8 stages will not follow. So the first thing is to stop seeing anything which is illicit or against the 4 regulative principles. Stop seeing with your eyes. And once we stop that, then we can control the other 8 stages. There is a Swami in Iskcon, his name is Ganapati Swami. He is not a very well-known Swami, he is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He preaches mainly in America. So there was one video, and in that video, one devotee was asking this Ganapati Swami, Swamiji, how do we control lust? How do we control lust? Because it is so strong. And Swamiji, Ganapati Swami, he replied, it is practically impossible. It is practically impossible. The only window of opportunity which we have, the only window of opportunity we have is right in the beginning. Right in the beginning, when we see something which is not, which according to me, which you know for a fact that this is not something which as a devotee I should be doing, right in the beginning, one should stop it. And that is the only window of opportunity we have, because one lust comes into us through the 9 stages. Once it enters us, it is practically impossible to stop. Once it enters the stage of the mind, then the mind will keep on playing on things. Then it is practically impossible to stop. Srila Prabhupada, in the Bhagavad Gita, he mentions, in the 3rd chapter, he mentions one purport. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that this entire world, everything is centered around lust. Everything is centered around sense gratification. And Prabhupada says that this world is Maithunya Agra. Maithunya Agra. That means it is a prison where everyone is shackled by sense gratification. Now, in a normal prison, if you go to a normal prison, how are the prisoners shackled? They are shackled with handcuffs, with locks, with bars. But in this material world, for those jivatmas who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord, they are shackled with sense gratification, and therefore this material world is known as Maithunya Agra, a prison house of sense gratification. Now we have to understand this one point, that the attraction between man and woman is very natural, right? It is natural. But what is not recommended in the scriptures is the unregulated coming together of man and woman, which is against scriptures, which is against the scriptural injunctions. When man and woman come together in the sacred bond of marriage, that is okay, that is acceptable. But unregulated, illicit, undue attraction between man and woman is discouraged. And this is what the Shastras say. Srila Vyasadeva, he had one disciple. His name was Jaimani Rishi. And one day, Vyasadeva was taking a class for his disciple. And Vyasadeva was telling Jaimani Rishi, he was telling all of them, that one has to be very careful of Maya. One has to be careful and cautious of the attraction between man and women. And Jaimani Rishi, he was listening to his Gurudev, but he raised his hand and he says, Gurudev, I think you are wrong. I am a pakka brahmachari. No woman can attract me. Okay. So, after a few days, in the same area where Jaimani Rishi and Vedavyas was staying, there was a lady who was standing under a tree. And she had a very beautiful, charming face. She had piercing eyes. And she was wearing a very thin silken robe, a thin silken garment. And then it was sunset time, it was evening time. Slowly there were clouds in the sky and it began to rain. And Jaimani Rishi passed by. He passed by. And he saw this lady. And he said, Lady, why don't you come and stay in my house? I am a pakka brahmachari. It is raining. It is not safe. Please come and stay in my house. So this lady replied, is there any other lady in your house so that I can very easily come? And Jaimani Rishi replied, it is not required. I have taken the vows of brahmacharya. Don't worry. Come, I will give you protection. Then the lady replied that I have heard it is not safe for a lady like me to stay with a brahmachari. It is not right. I cannot do that. And Jaimani Rishi replied, don't worry. Don't worry at all. I am a pakka brahmachari. To come and stay in the house, you stay inside the house, I will stay outside. So it happened that way. The lady agreed. She came and stayed in the house of Jaimani Rishi, and Jaimani Rishi that particular night, he stayed outside the house and she stayed inside the house, right? And it was raining very heavily, it was dark. Now, almost automatically, in the middle of the night, as if from nowhere, Jaimani Rishi started to get thoughts about this lady. As if from nowhere, he started getting some kind of lusty desires in his mind. And he stood up and he knocked at the door of this lady. And he told her, it is very cold outside. The winds are blowing so hard. Please allow me to come inside. And he started knocking at the door. And this lady, she said, no, Jaimani Rishi has told me very strictly, nobody will be allowed inside. This man knocked and he said, I am Jaimani Rishi. Please allow me to come inside. It is very cold. I cannot stay here. The lady refused to open, but Jaimani Rishi, he persisted, knocking at the door. Finally, the lady relented and she opened the door. And Jaimani Rishi went inside the cottage and closed the door. Now it is a small cottage. The lady was sleeping on one side, and Jaimini Rishi tried to sleep on the other side. But in his heart, he already had this lusty desires. And these lusty desires increased even more because of the proximity with that lady and the sound of her bangles. These lusty desires increased more. He got up suddenly. The lady also got up. Jaimini Rishi told her, I am very attracted towards you. Will you marry me? And this lady, she thought for a minute. And she said, it is my honor to marry a rishi like you. But I have one condition. I want to check your qualification. And I have made a vow. The condition is only this. There is a Durga temple close by. There is a Durga temple close by. And just to check your qualification, the vow I made was, the person who marries me, he has to carry me to that Durga temple on his knees, on crawling, like a horse. He has to become like a horse and he has to carry me to that Durga temple. If you carry me to that Durga temple like that, I will marry you. Jaimini Rishi said, yes, immediately let us go. Immediately let us go. So he became a horse on his knees with his hands. The lady sat on his back. Now mind you, this is the middle of the night. It is raining. It is dark. And Jaimini Rishi with this lady at the back is crawling up the hill up to the Durga temple. His knees, his hands were all scratched with stones and thorns. But Jaimini Rishi did not give up. He started crawling up to that Durga temple. It took him the whole night. And by the time he reached there, it was daybreak. It was daybreak. And Jaimini Rishi is finally happy that he reached that Durga temple. He reaches that place and he stands up. It is daybreak, the sun is breaking, and he turns. He turns and he wants to embrace this lady. But to his great surprise, instead of the lady, there is a man with a long beard. And this man was none other than his Guru Vyasadeva. Was his Guru Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva is standing in front of Jaimini Rishi. And he's telling Jaimini Rishi, so what were you saying about being a Pakka Brahmacharya? What were you saying about being a Pakka Brahmacharya? And Jaimini Rishi, he bows down to his Guru and he agrees. He says, Gurudev, your message which you were giving me the other day is indeed very true. Maya is very, very strong. Maya is very, very strong. And Srila Prabhupada many times he used to say, Maya Devi is so strong. And Prabhupada used to say, I go to Krishna every day and pray every day that please protect me from Maya. Srila Prabhupada goes in front of the deities and he says, I pray every day that please protect me from Maya. Well, who are we? Who are we? Jaimini Rishi was a very proud person. Maya Devi waits for the right time, the right opportunity. She has a hook in everyone's eye. She has a hook in everyone's heart. She knows our weak spots. She knows when to strike. She knows exactly what will attract the soul because that is her job. That is her job in the mat. She is Krishna's own energy. We have no hope against her. It is, of course, it is said, Shrishti Sthiti Pralaya. Shrishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha. Shrishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Chayesu Yasya Bhuvanani Bibharti Durga. Chayesu Yasya Bibharti Durga. That this Maya Devi is Krishna's own energy. We have no hope against her. We have no hope against her. In the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, when he's speaking to Arjuna, there is a series of verses where he speaks only about lust. And Krishna says, Kama esa, Krodha esa, Rajoguna samudbhava, Mahasana mahapapam, Vidhi enam iha varinam. So Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that it is lust only which is the all-devouring enemy in this world. He's telling Arjuna it is lust only which is the all-devouring enemy. So Krishna is calling lust as our enemy. It is the all-devouring enemy in this world. Prabhujis and Matajis, if you look around you in this material world, you will see that everything comes in pairs, male and female. Everything comes in pairs. The birds, they come in pairs. The aquatics, they come in pairs. The beasts, they come in pairs. Even the humans, we come in pairs, male and female, right? And the attraction between man and female is the fundamental principle on which this whole world has been created. Just look around you. Just look around you. When you go out on the streets, every hoarding, every billboard is about this principle of lust. Every hoarding, every billboard is about this principle of lust. There is no good movie without a love interest. There is no good novel where this principle of lust is not there. So everything in this world is based on this central principle of lust. It is so strong that it can attract almost everyone. We know about Vishwamitra Muni, Shaubari Muni. All of them were attracted by this one principle. Jaimani Rishi, Indra, all of them fall prey to this one single principle of lust, right? And so the question comes here as to why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult to give up this lust? Why is it so difficult, you may ask? Why is it so difficult to give up this lust? And why is it that practically we can give up everything in this material world, but we cannot give up this attraction between man and woman? Why is it that we can't give up this lust? And the answer is simply this. This lust is a transformation of the innermost desire of the soul, the desire to serve and love Krishna. This is our Swarupa. This is a transformation of the desire of the soul to love Krishna. This is our Swarupa. Someone may ask this question, why did Krishna make this lust so strong? Why did he not make it a little weaker? It will be so easy to go back home, back to Godhead. Why didn't he make it a little weaker? And the answer is he cannot make it a little weaker because this is our nature. The nature of the soul is to love Krishna. The nature of the soul. And making this weaker means to weaken our relationship with Krishna. To weaken our relationship with Krishna. When this lust, when this love in the material world, in the perverted reflected form, is lust in this material world. So love in the spiritual world, in the perverted reflective form, is lust in this material. Atmendriya priti ichha, tare bole kam, Krishnendriya priti ichha, tare prema naam. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was saying that this love for Krishna which is there in our heart, we all have love for Krishna in our heart. It is the most powerful quality of the soul. It is our love for Krishna is the most powerful quality of the soul. And the same love as lust in the material world becomes the most powerful force in this world. It becomes the more powerful force in the world. Therefore, someone who can give up, someone who can conquer over this lust, that person becomes eligible for every opulence in this world. You may sometimes wonder, why do we give sannyasis? Why do we give sannyasis so much respect? Why do we give sadhus so much opulence? Right? Because the answer is simply this. Because if you also can conquer over this enemy which Krishna calls enemy, this enemy of lust, you too become deserving for every opulence in the world. You too become deserving for every opulence in the world. And that is why everything in the world can come in your grasp if you can give up this one thing. If you can give up this one thing. And that is why we see in the Bhagavatam, Indra is always afraid of the rishis and munis when they are doing so many sacrifices. He always wants to come and break their sacrifice. Why? Because he knows that if they are successful in their brahmacharya, if they are successful in their ability to control this lust, then everything is within their grasp. Everything is within their grasp. So he's always keen to break. Everyone in this material world experiences this lust in different degrees. Even all the animals, even the species. There is one particular species of insects. Please listen to this very carefully. There is one particular species of insect And these insect, the male and the female, they come together, they mate, and then the female bites off the head of the male insect. He bites off the head of the male insect. This is his happiness. This is the happiness of that insect. Why else would that insect come and mate with that female when he knows the very minute he is going to mate, the next minute he is going to die? This is the highest happiness which that male insect experiences in that body. It is the highest happiness which that male insect experiences in that body. So he comes, he mates, and he dies. Right? Let us go a little higher. We see in the ants. In the case of the ants, there is a queen ant, or a queen bee, and this queen bee is impregnated once in her life, and then she produces so many offspring, so many ants. She keeps on producing. Right? This is her sense pleasure. This is her sense pleasure. And all the worker ants, and they're all working and serving the queen ant. Right? Come to the humans, a little higher. We come to the humans, right? In the human form of life, our pleasure is a little more sophisticated, right? Is a little more sophisticated, right? We do not do it on the streets. We do not bite off the heads of the other person, right? It is all based on touch. In the case of the human, it is all sparsha. It is all touch, right? This happiness comes for a few minutes. It goes away, it comes, we experience happiness, and then it goes away. This is at the level of the humans, right? When we go to the Gandharvas, in the higher planetary system, the Gandharvas, their happiness is based on the level of the sound. There is no such thing as touch. In the planet of the Gandharvas, they exchange beautiful voices with the other Gandharvas. So there's an exchange of voices, and they experience their highest pleasure on the level of sound. It is more subtle. It is more subtle on the level of the sound, right? When we see that insect who bites off the head of the other insect, when we see them, what do we think? This is happiness. This is happiness, we think. In the same way, when the Gandharvas, they see us, and they say, this is happiness. This is happiness. No? At the level, when we go to the moon god, at the level of the moon, on the higher planet, on the level of the moon, everything is in the level of the mind. The moon god is known as Manomaya, the higher happiness of the inhabitants of the moon planet. Their happiness is at the level of the mind. Go a little higher. When we go to the planet of Brahma, there in the planet of Brahma, which is the highest planet in the material world, and Brahmaji is the highest created living entity, their happiness is on the level of the buddhi, of the intelligence. We may see Brahma and we may say, what a boring life he has. No, his happiness is beyond what we can imagine. It is at the level of buddhi. It is completely transcendental. It is completely above what we can imagine in this material world. His happiness is at the level of the buddhi. And in the Upanishads, there is a very, very nice example which is given. It is said, in the Upanishad it is mentioned, imagine a man in this world, imagine a man who is young and who has everything in this material world. Imagine a man who is young and who has everything in this material world. His happiness is considered to be 1 unit of happiness. Imagine a man who is young and he has everything in this material. Are we even close to that? No, right? He has every opulence in this. His happiness is considered to be 1 unit of happiness. 100 times that is the happiness of the Gandharvas. 100 times that. And 100 times that is the happiness of the Devas in the lower planetary systems. Like we have Vayu, Agni, the lower Devas. 100 times that is their happiness. And 100 times that is the happiness of Brahma. 100 times that. And 100 times that is the happiness of a person who has understood Brahman. 100 times that. But that, Prabhujis and Matajis, the Upanishads say, is not equal to 1 drop of happiness in Krishna Prema. is not equal to one drop of happiness in Krishna Prema. The six Goswamis of Vrindavan, when we read the pastimes of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, we have Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, we have Raghunath Das Goswami. Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, they were ministers. They had gold coins. It is described that Rupa Goswami, when he decided to give away his wealth, he had a boatload of gold coins, right? Boatload of gold coins, right? Sanatan Goswami had 10,000 gold coins. He just gave it away. Raghunath Das, right? But what did they do? They just gave it away. They just gave it away. Why? Why will they do that? Because they were experiencing happiness in Krishna Prema. Every minute they were experiencing so much of happiness in Krishna Prema. Every step they were experiencing so much happiness in Krishna Prema. Anandam buddhi vardhanam pratipadam purnamrita swadanam. They were experiencing so much happiness that they could just give it away at the drop of a hat. Right? Lord Krishna says, Raso varjam rasopiyasya. Raso varjam rasopiyasya param drishta nivartate. That when in Krishna Bhakti, Prabhupada writes in the purport that the happiness, when a devotee gets happiness by practicing Krishna Bhakti, he gives away all these lower forms of happiness like that. He gives away all other lower forms of happiness just like that. Raso varjam raso piyasya. When we get that higher happiness, we can easily give up that lower happiness at the drop of a hat. The acharyas, the pure devotees of the Lord, the six Goswamis, they are not interested. They are not interested in this gross material happiness. They reject it. They just reject it like that. Yamunacharya says that when I think of the attraction between men and women, I spit at that thought. Why? Because he is getting so much of happiness otherwise in Krishna Prema. And that is the happiness, Prabhujis and Matajis, which we are all aspiring for. And that is where we have to reach. That is where we have to reach. A devotee, he once asked His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. He asked Radhanath Maharaj that, Maharaj, temptations are so strong. They are so strong in my heart. How to overcome this constant desire for sense gratification? So Radhanath Maharaj replied, Maharaj said that a sincere devotee is always focused and contemplative. He's always thinking, what transformation is required in my life? What transformation is required in my life to love Krishna and serve Krishna? What transformation is required in my life? And the devotee, in order to maintain one's integrity, if I have to give up lustful desires, I have to seriously take shelter of the holy name. One should take serious shelter of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. One should take shelter of the holy name. One should seriously take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. We must seriously take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. One should seriously take shelter of the deities. And one should seriously understand and make Krishna the center of our lives through humble, simple prayers. Make Krishna the center of our lives, right? Prabhujis and Matajis, this material world is a very, very diseased place. Is a very, very diseased place. If we take shelter of the holy name, if we take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, if we take shelter of the deities and we take shelter of prayers, which are very, very powerful, prayers to Lord Krishna when we are going through this tumultuous period of lust is a very, very powerful tool. When we take shelter of these four things, then we get mercy of the Lord. We get the mercy of the Lord. On our own, if you try and give up lust, it is not going to happen. But if we take shelter of the holy name, if we take shelter of Bhagavatam, if we take shelter of the deities, then we get mercy, prasada. We get mercy of the Lord. And when we get His mercy, then we can very easily overcome, right? It is described that a lotus flower A Vaishnava is like a lotus flower, and this lotus flower is on a dirty, muddy water. We see muddy water below and a lotus flower above. So Vaishnava in the muddy water in this material world, which is compared to this material world, there are a lot of insects. There are a lot of creepy, crawly creatures. There are worms. So many worms are there. But a Vaishnava is like a flower above this muddy water. Why? Because he has the mercy of the Lord. Because he has the mercy of the Lord. Kamadev, Cupid, another name for Kamadev is Cupid. He's constantly throwing arrows at us to attract man and woman. He's constantly firing his arrows. And Kamadev is known as Madana. But Krishna is known as Madana Mohana. Krishna is known as Madana Mohana. When we take shelter of Madan Mohana, then the arrows of Kamadev have no impact on us. Because we have taken shelter of Madan Mohana. It is said that Madan Mohan Ji, Radha Madan Mohan Ji, is the Sambandha deity. Is the Sambandha deity for all the devotees who come for the first time. When we come to Krishna consciousness, our Sambandha deity is Radha Madan Mohan. Right? And in the initial stage in Krishna consciousness is when the lust really bothers us. Right? So we should take shelter of Radha Madan Mohan Ji. When we take shelter of Radha Madan Mohan Ji, it is very, very important. But Maharaj said, I gave you 4 things we should take shelter of. Take shelter of the holy name, take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, take shelter of the deities, and take shelter of prayers. But he said, I will add one more thing. And the one thing which I am going to add, and which is the most important thing we should take shelter of, is take shelter of the devotees of Krishna. Take shelter of the devotees of Krishna. We should be always packed up. We should be packed up in the association of devotees. And Maharaj said, you know, in Kumbh Mela, when we go to Kumbh Mela, I don't know how many of y'all have gone, when we go to Kumbh Mela, and we are going to take a dip in the river. There are lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of people. We want to take a dip in the river, right? So we get into that crowd, and the force of the crowd is so strong. And you're so packed up among those people that you don't even have to move. The crowd will pick you, deposit you in the water and bring you back. So you're packed up in that crowd, right? In the same way, we should be packed up in the association of devotees. Packed up in the association of devotees. Suppose we are packed up in the association of devotees and we are moving forward. Suddenly we decide, I don't want to do Krishna consciousness. Enough of Krishna consciousness for me. Because you are packed up in the association of devotees, because of the force of the crowd, you will be picked up and deposited in Golok Vrindavana and you will not even know it. This is the mercy of the devotees. Oh, the mercy of the devotees of Krishna. Always be packed up in the association of devotees. Maharaj said this is one point which you should always remember. Be always packed up in the association of devotees. In a Back to Godhead magazine of a few years ago, a devotee, he wrote a very nice prayer. He wrote a very, very nice prayer. And he's writing this prayer to Krishna. So he wrote a very nice prayer. And I want to just read out a few lines, 5-6 lines of that prayer. And this devotee is opening his heart and he's speaking to Krishna. And he's telling Krishna, my dear Lord Krishna, I am so weak and I am trapped in this whirlpool of this material world. I am so weak. And I am trapped in this whirlpool of this material world. I am not an expert in my services. So what is he praying? I am trapped in this whirlpool of this material world. I am not an expert in my services. But my dear Krishna, whatever I am your servant, my Lord. I am my servant, my Lord. You have to accept me because I am trying my best. I am trying my best. And in my heart of heart, Krishna, I know that the only thing which will make me happy in this material world is Krishna Bhakti. In my heart of heart, I know this, that the only thing which will make me happy in this material world is Krishna Bhakti. I don't have strength to stand, Krishna. I don't have strength to stand. Please help me, please accept me. So he writes this prayer to Krishna in this magazine. And this prayer touched me a lot. Because when we make such humble prayers to Krishna from the core of our heart, then Lord Krishna really listens. when we are battling all these inner anarthas in our heart, prayer is a very, very important tool which all of us can make and recite in front of the Lord. And when we recite these prayers, what is difficult to Krishna? Maya is very strong, but where is she? Where Krishna is much, much stronger. Much, much stronger. There was one brahmacharya, he was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So he, at the time of Prabhupada, he was a very nice pujari in the temple. But it so happened that this brahmachari, he got attracted to some Mataji and he left Kesi. He left Krishna Bhakti and he went away. And he started living a normal life like anybody else. Now one day in his office, one man approached him, a friend, and he told him, I heard previously you were connected to the Hare Krishna movement. I have a desire to go to the temple. I've heard so many things. Will you take me? So the man said, no. That phase of my life is over. I am not a devotee anymore. No. But the man said, no, please take me. Please take me and go. Somehow, please take me. And he agreed. So he took him to the temple. And when he entered the temple, few devotees, they recognized him. And they said, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So this man said, no, I'm not Prabhu anymore. I used to be. I'm not Prabhu anymore. I'm just come here and I bought this man. I'm going to see. I'll go stand at the back. So he went at the back of the temple and he stood quietly and he's just observing everything. Right? And the other person whom he bought is just looking around. And everything was fine up to the Aarati started. Everything was fine when the Aarati started. And when the Aarati started of the Lord, this man is watching from behind. He was a pujari. Previously he was a pujari. So he has done Aarati so many times to the Lord, standing on the altar. And when that pujari on the altar, he brought out the chamara. And sometimes, the pujaris, they play the chamara with such graceful movement. They wave out the chamara so gracefully. When that man at the back, he's knitting and he saw the chamara, something touched his heart. And all the walls and all the barriers he had built within his heart, it all came crashing down. Why? Because he had done so much seva to the Lord. He had done hours and hours of aarti to the Lord. And when that pujari was playing the chamara, this man, all the barriers in his heart came crashing down and he fell down on the spot and he started crying. And he realized that what have I done? All these years, I have not served you, O Krishna. What have I done? Right? And he came back, he became a devotee again, and he came back to Krishna Bhakti. So the point is simply this, Maya may be very strong, but Krishna is even stronger. Krishna knows if we are sincere in our heart, if we have sincere desires in our heart to serve him, then all these other anarthas can easily be taken away. Of course, Krishna hai Surya Saman, Maya hai Andhakar. Yahan Krishna, tare nahi Maya adhikar. So Krishna hai Surya Saman. We should always take shelter of the devotees, take shelter of the holy name, take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that way, Prabhujis and Matajis, we will be safe and protected. This story of Maharaj Agni Dhara is an eye-opener for all of us, that we have to be cautious of the interaction between man and woman and take shelter of Lord Shri Krishna. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I will stop here. I will pause. Thank you very much. I would just like to say one more thing before I close. Today is the Smriti Sabha of His Grace Anadi Jagannath Prabhu. I don't know many of you all who know Anadi Jagannath Prabhu, Anadi Jagannath Prabhu passed away 1 week back. And today is his Smriti Sabha in Jagannath Mandir. But when I heard this topic, when I was discussing this topic in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is not a very easy topic to talk about lust and talk about so many other things. I was immediately reminded about His Grace Anadi Jagannath Prabhu. And the reason why I was reminded about him was simply this, that Prabhu and his wife, Mataji, they dedicated their whole life in the service of Guru, Krishna and the Guru Parampara. They were completely devoted to the service of Guru and Krishna. So much so that in the 10 years in which they were married, they decided we will not have children. We will serve Krishna. We will spend our life in the service of Krishna. So I was thinking about this point, and I was thinking that here we are struggling, with this concept and this principle of lust. And here are two devotees who decide that we will not even have children because we will serve Guru and Krishna. And I was thinking, what is their level of surrender? Just see what is their level of surrender, how they have dedicated their life to Guru and Krishna. I just wanted to mention this point because it is very relevant on how they actually manage their life and surrender to Krishna. His Grace Anadi Jagannath Prabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yes.
Shri Gandharva Gita Vishnu Mahaprabhu ki, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much. I just wish this Bhagavatam class never ended. I'm sure all of you will be here. So Prabhuji very nicely directed us, reminded us about our spiritual goals, and through the stages of Bhagavatam, he told us what our destination should be. They were also very clearly indicating how deep are the implications of what we see and what we hear. That's why our leaders many times says, don't depend on this smartphones which we have. They keep dumping a lot of information. Be very careful about that. He gave us nice stages and told us what our only option is. At the first stage is get out. So we are all in the prison. My dunya,
yes, Prabhu. Yes. Yes.
So, but here, apart from knowing that it's always Ashashwatam and we've always been told it's a prison, we came to know also this prison is from sense gratification. How valuable is one drop of Krishna Karuna. Fantastic, Prabhu, thank you very much. We wish, but after all this, he said, the only shelter we need to take, apart from other 4 points, is staying with devotee association. How important is devotee association is clearly emphasized. Thank you very much, Prabhu. We wish you come again and keep in this your association.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Let's from our bottom of our hearts now we chant Hare Krishna for Prabhu and his spiritual progress. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. Please stay. I have a few announcements apart from the most important announcement Prabhu already made. I think we wait for some devotees for that.
Okay.
So, few important announcements. The first one is what Prabhu just now mentioned. We all wait for all the other Bhagavatam class which is going on. All the devotees come up and then we start the mini Sabha. So today, also, how lucky we are that today's Prashadam is sponsored by His Grace Anantha Prabhu and his family. Okay, so he's still continuing his mercy on all our devotees. So, other one is important announcement is tomorrow the Ekadashi. I'm sure everybody will be aware. Please prepare your body and mind nicely and sleep early so that we can perform the Ekadashi very well. And please look for announcement as to when the Ekadashi breaks down. Yeah, and last but not the least, I hope all of you are performing the Chaturmasa Vrata nicely. A few more days for meaty vegetables, and the next one will start is curd. I presume South Indians would have a little problem, but just for a month. Okay, so do we start the cooking Prabhu or? That's Balaram Jayanti. Okay, tomorrow is very important another important announcement is tomorrow Jewelry Yatra starts. I'm sure the preparations are going on. Have I not missed anything? Somebody will keep them till 5 minutes when all the devotees from the top floor message come up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
We can start this live.
Any questions are there? Probably still there. We'll try to. On today's topic, if there is anything, I will probably request Robbie to answer us.